Big Ten Power Rankings right here at the Voice of College Football. We appreciate your support. We only get this done because of you. Thank you so much for your support and loyalty. Please like the video, share the videos out on social media. Some people out there, imagine this, have no idea the Voice of College Football exists. Can you imagine living life without the Voice of College Football and our engagement and discussion each and every day? Best discussion, debate, and analysis. Let's get after it. Big Ten Power Rankings. All right, Northwestern has no power. They've got nothing. They're a bad football team that is probably the worst in the Power 5 and worse than a whole lot of G5 teams as well. Northwestern just came off a 5-touchdown loss to Wisconsin. That's how bad it's become. As I joked the last time we did the Power Rankings, Northwestern was the team in the Big Ten. They were the team in the nation. They were the Power Ranking champion, number 1. In August after they defeated Nebraska. Since then, all downhill at 1-5. They've lost to Miami of Ohio and Southern Illinois. They've got a -6 turnover ratio. Northwestern's the worst team, not just in the Big Ten, maybe in all of college football in the Power 5, and worse than about 25 or 30 group of fives, at least. Rutgers is number 13, but Rutgers, hey, if you put them on a field against Northwestern, they should win the game. Now, it's not going to be pretty or ugly, or they can't race past anybody by 14 points, but I've got no doubt that Rutgers is a better football team than Northwestern. They are 111th in the nation in offense, so they fired their offensive coordinator. Hey, sometimes you got to do that. They only lost to Nebraska by 1 point with a 13-0 lead. And so Rutgers at 3-3, 0-3 in the Big Ten, have yet to win a game. They've got Indiana coming up. At number 12, we've got Wisconsin. Oh my goodness, can you imagine Wisconsin, a team that has been rock solid, top 15 in the nation most of the time over the last 30 years, is this bad? Sometimes the offense is bad, sometimes the offense is efficient and workmanlike. This offense is bad, and guess what? The defense isn't really that good either. Wisconsin coming off that 5-touchdown win against Northwestern that was more about the Wildcats. Well, they turn around and they take on a Michigan State team that has been completely inept, and they lose in overtime. After Graham Mertz threw the 5 touchdowns against Northwestern, he throws for 131 in yardage in an overtime game. Braylon Allen with 123, still a top back, but Wisconsin's awful. They've got Purdue at home coming up this weekend. At number 11, Iowa. My goodness, the defending Big Ten Western Division champions still have an outside shot to reclaim the West. However, they have not been up to the challenge as of yet. They've got the worst offense in the country. That's all there is to it. They've got the worst offense in the country. They've got one of the 5 to 10 best defenses in the country. The metrics state that. The eyeball test, the history, Phil Parker's scheme's amazing. His development of the players is exceptional. Well, we're going to get to see possibly the best offense in the country take on one of the best defenses in the country. Unfortunately, Iowa cannot match Ohio State on the offensive end. Can they score in Columbus? Well, they get their trip coming up, and Iowa is facing 1-3. They're 1-2 in the Big Ten right now. Can't get to a third loss, although in the Big Ten Western Division, maybe, but they would have to sweep the rest of their games for sure. At number 10, we've got Michigan State showing some life against Wisconsin. So when Michigan State and Wisconsin, and it's really hard for me to spit out Michigan State, Wisconsin as a lousy game with 2 lousy teams. But when these bottom feeders in the Big Ten get together, well, somebody's going to win the game. So we're separating the bad and the really bad. And so Michigan State, at least for 1 week, was just bad, not really bad. Peyton Thorne to Jaden Reed with the walk-off touchdown in double overtime. It was a thing of beauty. Jaden Reed can play, so you toss him the football. This team, of course, had that stretch, Minnesota, Maryland, Ohio State, where they just got obliterated. 107th in pass defense is actually an upgrade, statistically at least, but they don't have the offense to make up for it. They only gave up 131 through the air, as we mentioned, against Graham Mertz, and that was more about Mertz failing and the Wisconsin offense than the Michigan State defense with a bye week to lick their wounds, feel good about a victory, and move on at 1-3 in the Big Ten. At number 9, Indiana. We mentioned the Rutgers game. Indiana can notch another win in the Big Ten, or they could slide further down. Impressive showing considering a decent opponent taking on Maryland, losing 38-33. Their rush offense is abysmal. They're not supporting Connor Baselick in two different ways. No pass blocking, rushing team, number 126 in the nation. So Indiana, turnover margin, 3-0 against Maryland. They can't win football games like that. Indiana at number 9 at 1-3 in the Big Ten. Nebraska is a 2-2 football team in the Big Ten. Well, they had two easy games in Rutgers and Indiana. Back to it in the Big Ten Western Division against Purdue. And Nebraska did what they do. They lost by one score. Scott Frost, where are you? They had the amazing game by Trey Palmer, 237 receiving yards, but the defense continues to get just obliterated. 608 yards of total offense for Purdue. And Nebraska, 3-4, 2-2 in the division. They've got a bye week coming up before that stretch drive that is brutal for the Huskers. At number 7, a team that appeared to be so much better than this earlier in the season with 4 consecutive wins to start against weak competition, yes, but a complete football team we thought possibly. Minnesota is reeling right now. 4-2 is also 1-2 in the Big Ten. They had the 4 wins out of the gate, then they hit Purdue, only scored 10 points. Didn't have Mo Ibrahim, who ripped it up against Illinois, 127 yards, but Tanner Morgan had to leave the game. Concussion protocol issue, carted off the field in the fourth quarter. But Tanner Morgan, at the time that he left the game, and this was in the fourth quarter, had 21 yards passing. 4 for 12, 21 yards for Tanner Morgan. We don't know if he's going to be able to go and suit up at Penn State. This is a couple teams that are reeling that need a win to show that they are a top 25 club. But Minnesota at 4-2 overall, number 7 in the Big Ten after losing to Purdue and losing this game, obviously, to Illinois. At number 6, we've got Maryland. They squeaked by Indiana. They should be better than this, but hey, they got the win, 38-33 on Indiana. Talia Tungavailoa had to leave that game late. You had Billy Edwards Jr. coming in, not completing a pass, but he ran for 53 yards and a touchdown to salt this one away. Maryland seems as though they can't beat the big boys like Michigan. They lost that game by a touchdown. They lost to Purdue on a closing 2-point conversion controversy with a penalty there. But Maryland still decidedly better than everybody else in the Big Ten, now at 5-2, taking on Northwestern. So the Terps could get to bowl eligibility at 6-2 this week. At number 5, we've got Purdue. The Boilers at 5-2, 3-1 in the conference. Aiden O'Connell getting healthy, exceptional. Had to suffer the rib injury, and the defense had to step up in the running game. So that proved to be a good thing probably overall. I'm sure the ribs don't feel good for Aiden O'Connell, but Purdue had to win games on defense and running the football for a few weeks, as much as a Purdue team is going to do such. But Aiden O'Connell let it fly once again in this past weekend against Nebraska, scoring 43 points, 35 of 54 in that one. Charlie Jones has been exceptional. Caught 12 more passes this past weekend against the Huskers. 62 on the seasons. That's number 2 in college football. The defense is up and down. I think it's a good defense one week. Then the next week they get torched by Nebraska. And, of course, Devin Mockabee, 178 yards rushing. Got to watch this guy run the ball. In the uniform he's in, he looks like Mike Allstott. I don't know if I would make that comparison otherwise, but Devin Mockabee just looks for guys to run over. It's fun to watch. Purdue's got Wisconsin on the road. Can't trip up in this one. It looks like an obvious win. Not necessarily at Camp Randall. Purdue on the road at our number 5 team in the Big Ten. Numbers 3 and 4, we can go conventional, or we could say, you know what? Penn State, Illinois. If we just think, okay, well, Penn State, their only loss is to Michigan, and Michigan's one of the top 5 or 10 teams in the country, and of course, Illinois lost to Indiana. So resume, looking at the loss side, certainly favors Penn State significantly. Illinois lost to Indiana. However, recent trends, Penn State wasn't playing that great coming into the Michigan game, and they got manhandled. Now, Illinois got Michigan later in the season. They may get manhandled, but Illinois reeling off some impressive wins. The most recent, of course, against Minnesota. And we think of Minnesota, or we think of Illinois as run, which is true, and defense. Number 1 ranked defense in the country. number 1 in points per game defense, total defense. And Chase Brown leads the nation in rushing, carried it 41 times against Minnesota. However, they are balanced. They had to make it through the Iowa game 2 weeks ago, 9-6, with Art Sitkowski running the offense after Tommy DeVito got knocked out and played one of the best defenses in the country. Now, against Minnesota, Tommy DeVito's in the lineup and a more balanced attack. Illinois just doesn't pound, but they pound, then hit you through the air. Tommy DeVito, 25 of 32 against Minnesota. Isaiah Williams is a nice receiver. He had 9 catches in that game. So, conventional wisdom would be, of course, Penn State's better. They're one of the top 3, and then Illinois. I think I'm going to make a late change here. We've got Penn State at 4. Manhandled against Michigan. Sure, impressive performance way back in week 1, taking on Purdue, 35-31 on the road. Close game. Could have lost that one, of course. And then the Auburn game. Well, Auburn's not that good, but SEC team, NFL athletes at certain spots on the field, and Penn State dominated that game. But Illinois is just playing much better football at this point. We'll put Penn State at 4, Illinois at 3. That leaves our top 2. Is it Ohio State? Conventional wisdom says yes. Or is it Michigan? Michigan's played the better opponents. I hear some Michigan fans and see the feedback on social media and hear to the channel that now Michigan, that they've played Penn State. Well, Michigan's played this great schedule and they've played better teams than Ohio State. Yeah, that's true, but it has nothing to do with Ohio State scheduling. Of course, the Buckeyes are going to play those teams, Maryland, Penn State, Iowa coming up this week very soon, and Ohio State did schedule a decent, at times, Notre Dame team in the non-conference schedule. So, the more dominant team by far has been Ohio State. So we put the Buckeyes at number 1. Dominant, prolific offense. Best offense in the country. No weak spots. The only weakness here, injuries. Jackson Smith-Njigba, we'll see if he's able to come back and play well, play up to his standards, which is top wide receiver in the country. A bit to ask there. Travion Henderson had to leave the field against Michigan State. He should be okay. Mayan Williams missed that game. So the Buckeyes started to get nicked up a little bit on offense, but it is the best offense in the country. Tennessee's got something to say about that. And the defense is roughly top 5 in the country in most statistical categories. Of course, you're going to say there's not a defense or an offense out there that's challenged the Ohio State defense, and they're certainly not going to get it this week against Iowa, where Michigan has been a little bit more battle-tested. Maryland's decent, Iowa's decent, and of course, near elite on defense, and then, of course, the Penn State game. But sheer dominance across the board at this point will keep Ohio State at 1, Michigan in 2, until proven otherwise. And I don't mean the game at the end of the year, but if Michigan continues to play better against better opponents, but actually the Buckeyes are going to have better opponents than Michigan, their schedules almost flip-flop the rest of the way with Rutgers and those type teams headed Michigan's way. We've got the Buckeyes at 1, Michigan 2. Yes, we flip-flopped. Illinois at 3, Penn State at 4, Purdue 5, Maryland at 6. The Minnesota Golden Gophers reeling right now at number 7. They go to Penn State. Got to get through that. And then Nebraska at 8, Indiana at 9, Michigan State at number 10. Then we've got the Hawkeyes, the Badgers, Rutgers at 13, and Northwestern pretty much playing a different brand of football, a different league. You could put them number 1 in the FCS. Well, no, you can't do that either. Northwestern, it's been a rough 2 seasons for Pat Fitzgerald and company. Our Big Ten Power Rankings, of course, your comments below, and of course, like, comment, share the videos. I know that seems like a ridiculous thing. Share the videos out on social media. You come in contact with people that have no idea. Best discussion, debate, and analysis of college football right here at the Voice of College Football.